Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in our offices in the Bronx, New York. And I have a treat for you. I know it's Thanksgiving, the holiday for many people across America and around the world. I hope you will all be having a warm, peaceful, loving holiday with as much food as you need and lots of shelter. And for those who do not, I hope that you will be able to find that in the near term. But today I have an opportunity to speak with you about an election. No, not 2024, but going forward, the New York City mayoral race. And I have a wonderful opportunity to speak to Mr. Darren Aquino. He is the first candidate to have announced his candidacy, who said that he is going to be running in at least a year ago to be running in the New York City mayor's race. Now, I'm going to bring him on with us in just one second. He is at his home. He just came back from going out and donating blood. So he's going to look a little bit more casual, as you can see. But that's okay. It's the holiday and he donated blood. I give that a pass. Not a problem at all. Darren, first thing, thank you for taking the time to speak with me about your candidacy and your life. Uh, are you and your family ready for Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah. First, let me say thank you for having me and to give the opportunity to speak to New Yorkers and my fellow former Bronx residents to talk about me and some of the plans for this city and how I think we can make New York safe and great again.
Well, I always like to give a voice to candidates, valid candidates for every race that I can possibly reach out to. And I enjoy when people reach back out to me. Of course, very often I get a lot of first time candidates. But in your case, that's not true. But we're going to get to that in just one second. I do want to mention for people who are looking right now and they're seeing Darren's face and they're saying to themselves, hang on, I've seen him before. I know that face. I know that voice. You probably do. Darren has been an actor. He's been in Law and Order SVU. He's been also on The Sopranos. So you've probably seen him there. I'm sure you've got some fans who are checking you out here. So don't think it's some kind of deja vu or your medication is off. No, he really is. You have seen him before. But Darren, you've had quite a career. I mean, a lot of people who know you only for the acting may not realize that you've been involved um, in politics, but more so in helping people for many, many years. In
Yes.
fact, going back to about 1983, when you were younger than you are at this moment,
A lot
that you have
younger.
been, you know what, for both of us, of course. But you've been long term involved in helping
Yes.
people. And I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but tell us a little bit about Darren Aquino and what
The
got you to this
advocacy.
point.
Well, the advocacy, it started with President Reagan. It started back in 1983 when I wrote to President Reagan after an auto accident. I already had a disability. I was born with polio and a club foot. I had 17 surgeries just to make things go. So people don't notice you saying, I could be an actor with the polio and play a cop on TV. Because they used to say that I played a disabled cop. No, I was a cop with a disability, which is very rare because you don't see cops limp. But Dick Wolf liked what I was doing, and I stayed on that show for 3 seasons. And before that, prior to that, in the early days, that disability after the auto accident, my wife was pregnant. I was married. I was 22, going into 23 years old. And I had an auto accident because I was delivering sauce and cheese to pizza parlors around the city. Growing up in New York City, growing up in East Harlem and the Bronx, I had opportunities to have a more colorful life that could have went different ways. But I chose the right road, and doing that after getting hurt. I never was involved. No New York kid at that age is really concerned about politics. Even though I came out of a Democratic family, I wasn't engaged. I would help my father doing things for the local Democrats that he knew, Lindsay, those people when I was a young teenager. But after getting hurt and then giving me the option of filing for welfare, that was like, what? Welfare? I don't want welfare. I could still do something, even though I had very limited abilities. So I wrote to President Reagan and uh, poured out this whole big letter that my wife at the time, I dictated because of my dyslexia. That was another thing I had no clue that I had. And I dictated a very long, lengthy, descriptive letter to President Reagan, and I mailed it, and I got no answer. I discovered mailgrams where you could send it over the phone, and it comes right up in the White House back in those days. I did that, and I was very upset after seeing him and saying that you're going to help the country. I believed in you, and I don't want to be on welfare, and I have this disability, and I still think I could be able to sweep the White House floor. There are opportunities that should be available to me, but are not available to me. This is why people go out and rob and steal, because there's no opportunities. And I said, finally, in closing, and this was very impactful to President Reagan, that I would die for my country. Doesn't my country care about me? Well, needless to say, and I always get really emotional about it because the phone calls came, the White House called, all of the cabinet members. There's famous memos that they spoke about that Ronnie would walk around the White House at night and leave a memo on the desk for his members to handle it immediately, get on it. I was one of them. And the phone calls came, and I filed for the welfare, and they interrupted it, and people were making medical assessments of me. But needless to say, Ronnie stayed on top of my case for 6 years. I voted for him a second term. I was into his first term, and
Right.
he made them stay on top of it, and it changed my life. That if I use my voice and reach those people, and he encouraged that, that your voice got to me. You need my help. The buck stops here. I'm listening. How can I help you? I demonstrated that I wasn't lazy. I didn't want free welfare. I wanted an opportunity. And some things were medical. I had since then I had 17 surgeries.
Ow.
So yeah, so then they were all leg and except recently I had 2 years, almost a year and a half ago, I had open heart surgery because I had rheumatic fever. So I was a walking miracle, and people couldn't understand why I wanted to work because you know I
And
said
just there,
because
we're from a different era with a different ethic.
yeah, that's right. I grew up in the heart of New York. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hmm.
And, I try to put myself in the middle. So, in order to understand politics, you have to get in it. You don't have to be a candidate, but you have to be in the mix. Anybody from New York knows if you want to know how to fight something, you better learn about it. So I did. And after using my voice, and people were saying, presidents contacted me. I started helping people first with Social Security. They would delay the cases. I'd call the White House. I had carte blanche while Ronnie was in office, and then Bush, and then this thing trickled down to 6 presidents respected me, even Bill and Hillary. I mean, I got their picture there to the office. I'm not a big fan of them anymore after the widespread corruption, but I always liked them because they communicated with me directly. And I appreciate that. I respect that. That wasn't my letters and my concerns meant something to them, and it taught me how to connect with people, to be a better voice, a stronger voice. Don't take no for an answer. Be persistent, and I became a Republican after Ronald Reagan. He inducted me into the GOP, and I took off running, going to political meetings, being a voice, always standing up for the voiceless. I knew I had an ability and I had a niche, and it takes some of us a long time to find out what you're good at. Uh, so I found out my abilities in civil rights law and teaching myself. I went on and fought the mask mandates at the 11th Circuit. My argument is the one that stopped them on the amicus brief, 23-page and a 3-page letter of introduction, and I fought with the court saying my attorney doesn't have to come in. I'm the founder of the organization. I'm the voice. So needless to say, speeding up the time. You remember there was years of policy changes for New Yorkers with disabilities, access, voting access. Um, with the commissioner, Matt Saplin, was a friend of mine before he became commissioner when he worked in a lighthouse. And then when he got in, he became political too. And I would fight with him because I said, now you have the spot and you're not doing it. Now you've become a politician. This is not good. Now you the voice for the blind. Now can't you see? You can't see what you're doing wrong.
Mm.
And yeah, we argued about that, but we stayed friends. And he told my wife, he said, Darren is real important out there. I have to do this way, but he is the voice that's really needed out there because he's a loose cannon, and he gets the job done. So those are the things that led me up to my attempts to run. I learned that politics is very corrupt.
Yeah.
People, well, listen,
Yeah.
people take money. I don't take money. You can't buy me. You're not going to change the character that my parents gave me. That would dishonor them, and they're both gone. I wouldn't do that. My kids would see that. What kind of teaching would they now as adults? They would have no. I would have no credibility to everything I taught them. And
Right.
I'm sorry, family and country and God, these things are first.
No.
And as hard as we all fall short of the glory, that doesn't mean we have to. We have to keep trying. So I always try to make a better impression. I always try to make a better example. I always try harder to make more access and inclusion, equity, real equity for people with disabilities, for the voiceless. So, and the only way to do that and make an impact is if I'm the guy that's
Right.
elected, whether the public advocate or the mayor. The voice that runs New York is the voice that gets to heal, restore, make new. That's the voice, the people that you got to earn their trust. And if you earn the trust of New Yorkers, you're a superhero. And they're the energy behind you because they trust you. And together you can develop what's needed for New York in this political climate. What they did to New York is just horrifying.
Okay. Well, before we get to New York, I'd want to take a step back because there is also another aspect that I thought was very important about what you've done over the years. This is not a new thing. This is something you've been doing a long term, like alongside with your work for the disabled,
Mhm.
and you've had great successes with that have changed
Oh, yes.
national policy. You've been humble about mentioning that, but it is a fact. It is part of the record, and you've also been a very outspoken advocate for veterans, and of course.
Absolutely.
Having served myself, having a family who has served, father who's dealt with the VA many, many times, I'm always appreciative of those who have fought to try and improve the services and the quality of life for veterans across this country because I don't think we've done enough. But that's my personal view. But
No,
I
I
did want to
agree
mention
with
that.
you on that. I agree with you on the veteran issue. I got 7 generations. My nephew just got promoted to colonel, a Marine.
Oh,
He's in 23 years. He went in at 20 years old.
he's a lifer.
That's dedication. That's
Oh, yeah.
dedication. He went into the war on terror. 20 years old. I admire our young people that stand up for this country. I'm only disappointed in how certain political administrations have defamed the value of our veterans. Without our veterans, you don't have freedom.
No.
So, and I get really, really angry when you see a veteran sleeping in the street. You should never see that. And if I'm elected, you will never see that. Not ever. Not in my
Okay.
city.
Okay. We're going to hold you to that, but I'm also going to ask you a little bit more. But
Go ahead.
let's talk about your history as a candidate. As I alluded to earlier, I
Mm.
mentioned that you're not a first time candidate. You're not like what we see very often today in Hollywood, modern Hollywood, where they're activists because it's politically or expedient for their acting careers. You've actually been
Profitable for
doing
their
this a long
career,
time,
yes.
and you've actually committed to yourself to several races. You've run In Florida, for the Florida 19th district, the Florida 26th district, that's in 2020 and 2022 respective. In 2016, you ran for New York mayor
That's
previously,
correct.
and now you're running again.
Hmm.
So you've got a you've been out there, you've run the campaigns, which
Yes.
means you're a little bit crazy because anyone, and I say this as someone who's run for Congress myself and a couple of other offices. It's insanity to run. It's not fun. But
It's not fun, and what they do, just so you know,
mm,
once you get out there and you're in the field, and I've learned this, and that's why I wanted to run originally in the 26th. It was the 25th district. That's where I live, but they wouldn't let me, so I had to run the 19th. That's why when I ran again after Byron won, who was a late comer in the race,
mhm,
when the party picks somebody and it comes down from Tallahassee, that's it, because the states control the voter roll, and that's all there is to it. So no matter how much and when you look at early in that race,
mhm,
when I was at 23%. At the end of it, they put in two people who got paid money to leverage the numbers. But when people like you, that's not going to change. They're not going to go, well, I'll go with Byron. That's not how that goes. When they like you, and you'll hold at that. So when I went down to 1.25, that's a crock, and we know it. They didn't allow disabled voters with visually impaired. There was no braille ballots. Even in this current election, working the polls, I had to personally help a disabled man in, and they refused to accommodate him under the Voter Motor Act, which I fought for and changed. They didn't do it. So does that problem out there, and does that complicate campaigns for good and viable candidates? Yes, because we still need reform. But I won't quit, because Abraham Lincoln, one of my idols of presidents who was so determined, and Reagan,
mhm.
it took him 8 shots before he won. 8 times he ran before he won. So that's dedication, that's faithfulness to God and to country, because we have to keep trying. Otherwise, what does it mean? Or do we believe in what we believe in, or do we quit? Coming from a family of military and law enforcement, quitting is not an option. Losing, hey, the people lose,
No.
like Kamala and Joe, they lost, they're done, they're finished,
Yeah.
right? But look at why they lost. See, I didn't lose the kind of that. I lost. There was corruption involved, and when people are picked and pushed aside, that happened in New York too. I bailed out because it was too corrupt. Who
Okay.
had the attention? They called the law and order candidate. If you don't got the money to withstand them, then we lose good candidates all the time. Hopefully, this time we're going to change that.
Okay.
This is our time.
Okay. But I do want to ask. There's a
Yes.
question that comes out of those races that
Yes.
I want to address because I'm sure people they've either heard it or they look it up and they see this and they see you've been in New York, you've run in Florida. You mentioned you
Mhm.
had a home either previously. I don't know if you still do. Had a home in Florida. You have a home in New York. Where do you live?
I live. I'm full time, but part time in New York. I'm permanent. I'm primary resident Florida, and like a snowbirds, they call them like
They
that,
call it snowbirds.
because of the race. I wasn't just so people are clear. When I signed up to do it, people were asking me, please, Darren, come back. You got a long advocacy history. You can do it this time. I says it's too much money. Yeah, but you got a charming personality. People like you. Democrats will like you. Democrats have liked you because you're not a conventional candidate. You're a man of the people. That's true. I said, but in New York politics, you got to come with bags of money. I don't have it. I just don't have it. I invested my own money. I had my cousin give me money. I don't want that. I want the people. You know, the best advertisement is the people who give you the $1, the $5.
Mhm.
You're showing people everywhere that these people trust you. And that's what makes up New York. And if they trust me, that gives me the confidence to persevere and to win, to fight, because now my audience is listening, and now I can't disappoint them. I got to run until I can't run no more. I got to give my all. Planning, fixing, that's easy. winning, winning in a corrupt city like New York today is
Hmm.
not the challenge, is the corruption, not how good a job I'll do. Everybody that knows me, I'm the successful advocate. I'm the guy that made access for the people to get into courts that they had to put an ADA representative. And that took more than a decade to do. But I didn't quit. I got disabled actors on TV and lost my own job for doing it. But that's okay. Getting the job done is all that matters. You don't have to get the whistles and flags. You got to get the job done. And
Okay.
that's what I always try to do.
Okay. So let's actually talk about the job then,
Okay.
um, and get into some detail. Now,
Okay.
obviously, New York City's infrastructure is like this infrastructure of most sanctuary cities, like most sanctuary states. In other words, it's in absolute decline, debt. It's breaking, especially
Of
most
course.
recently with the open borders and the pressure from illegal immigration. How, if you were to be elected as mayor of New York, which is a sanctuary city state at this moment, excuse me, a sanctuary city inside a sanctuary state and is part of the border of the United States, uh, how would you address illegal aliens, the sanctuary status going forward? And there's a caveat to that. We know that President Trump has stated, or at least indicated, that he
That's
has interest of cutting funding, either entirely or in part, to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states because of the illegal immigration open border policy. So, given that caveat, let me ask you, how would you address this?
as the first candidate, I said this early on when the problem, because there was no candidate. Curtis Lewa was out.
Hmm.
He had his own challenges, deep financial debt.
Hmm.
The only viable candidate that was put up because I refused to run because of the corruption. But I put this out there. New York is not going to be a sanctuary city. There will be a massive deportation. The grateful thing is I now would have the help of Donald Trump to help me with the necessary removal tools to get them out. Now, as an immigrant family, we're all from immigrant families. Me, it's my great grandparents, okay? Because I'm part Puerto Rican too, but Puerto Rico's part of the United States since 1917.
Yeah.
So I'm good on that side. But New York is not a sanctuary, and it won't be a sanctuary. New York is a city that has rules, and it should have law and order. It doesn't have that. So after the massive deportation, we got to restructure, right? So there are things. Look at the filth in the city, the rat crisis,
Hmm.
the filth on every highway. One of my plans, uh, and one of the plans that actually Eric Adams stole because Bo Dietl gave it to him, because before I left the De Blasio race, Bo Dietl wanted me to help him, and I told him I'm going to have 5 deputy mayors so that no borough is without my eyes and ears, so that I can get a balance because being in public service for disabled, you know about the benefits in the boroughs, right?
Hmm.
So the Bronx was underserved for children with autism. Why is that? When they all get the same distribution of money. So that's what made me think of 5 deputy mayors. There's a method to my madness and how I wanted to orchestrate the city to function well. And to make it clean, after we get rid of the migrants, because that's the biggest problem, to remove that financial burden off of all New Yorkers because they got the bill.
Hmm.
And, businesses close. And now you're coming in after COVID, too. So now you got these two things that destroy small businesses. We have to revitalize New York. So to generate traffic, you have to clean the city and get rid of the migrants, the illegal migrants who came here illegally and broke the law.
Right.
Everybody else who,
There's a very clear difference between legal migration
that's right.
and illegal, and we are being very specific here.
That is
That's my
correct.
question, and that's your answer is illegal. That's what we're talking about. Go ahead.
I want them to know, I want people to know that they, stop it, Brutus. I want people to know that came here legally and lawfully, who have been here. Stop it, Brutus.
It's
Who
okay.
have
The
been
puppy's
here,
fine.
yeah, who have been here a very long time. We're going to do everything we can to expedite. to get them citizenship because they've already proven themselves. I don't have to. We're New York. We know who's been there. They're working hard, 9 to 5, 2 jobs, just to make their families comfortable and live out the American dream. Those folks are a priority. They've already earned their bones, as we would say in New York, right? You
Right.
earned your bones. Yeah, you got your
Right.
merit badge. So they go to the top of the list. But we have to clean the city. So after that, now we got to clean, actually physically clean. Nobody wants to come to New York. So my 30-60 plan is going to do that. And it's not going to cost us 1 cent more than it's costing us already. Now, I did this, I told this, I didn't want to tell it, but it's a real important plan to show you how we going to pay for it. We're not going to, we're already paying for it. White collar and blue collar criminals who are nonviolent criminals who are serving time in jail, it costs us anywhere from $250 to $350,000 a year to keep them in jail and not get them reformed. In my plan, and they'll sign waivers and certain things, unless they're struck by a car while they're cleaning the highway, they'll be protected. But if they hurt themselves on a garden tool while they're cleaning the highway, because some people, we're New Yorkers, we know
Yeah.
we catch on when people are scamming. So
Right.
the 30-60 plan is 30 days, 12 hours on the street in a day. They'll be fed lunch and breakfast and lunch. I
Mhm.
will partner with our friends at McDonald's, right? McDonald's got a big bump from Donald Trump and Dunkin' Donuts to partner to give our workers the breakfast. It's a team effort of cleaning New York and showing these two companies also fires up business. It creates a buzz because now we're cleaning and it's not costing us anything. And we're reforming lives by putting them on the street with DOT, sanitation, right? And we're going to put them wherever it needs structure, cleaning, paving the streets, right? We don't have enough people because they can't pay. Well, now we do. Now we have an extra 400, maybe 500 people. I'll know when I get the actual numbers of the prisoners and I see, and I'm going to give them this deal and they're going to take it. Their lives are going to change. We're actually going to make meaningful changes in lives and we're going to
Okay.
clean the city at the same time.
Okay. Let me ask a question because obviously there are those on the left who would say, so you're turning it into a prison industrial complex. It's basically, they would say, and they have said, that using prisoners to do labor is an abuse of those prisons. Now, I understand, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're going to be modeling this after the original welfare program that was created, where people may remember the Woody Woodpecker cartoons, had the
I
guy
do.
with a white suit and he's pushing a garbage can around. That's what people used to do to get paid instead of
Here,
welfare as we know it today. Are you talking
here,
like that? Go ahead.
no. Every 30 days, they get 60 days good time. So say, just let me to make a round number so people can understand. You know,
Mhm.
New Yorkers, we have a short span. Tell me what you're doing. Real simple. If you got 3 years of time, you'll give me, say, a year, and you'll get double for doing the hard work. You're getting paid in time off, time served. So you're working it though. So the paycheck is, it's like buying away your prison time, but learning a skill, being part of New York's cleanup, being part of history, and then building character. That now when you see somebody throw something on the street and you one of the cleanup crew, you're gonna be pissed off because you cleaned it. It's making people invest in our city. The opportunity where it's an advantage to New York City, okay, is that we have something to leverage here. They committed a crime. They're supposed to pay their debt to society, right? Isn't that the
Right.
whole
That's
prison?
the
Okay.
that's the idea.
Okay, I'm going to give them an opportunity to actually do it. Nothing hard or killer. Cleaning New York City. That's their job. And they do 12 hours a day on the street. Who wants to sit in a cell and do nothing? Well, I'm going to give you something to do. And these are nonviolent criminals. These are computer thieves. We're going to give them some structure and they're going to bust their ass for 12 hours. And then they're going to see how other New Yorkers feel when they get robbed and because they put in the effort. So we're accomplishing a lot of things here.
Mhm.
Okay. We're doing the most important thing, cleaning our city. for the cost it's already costing us, not an extra dime more. But we're also building character in criminals that did this because it was easy. This hard work on the street to make a city will give them an investment in New York too. I just believe that. I
Okay.
know, and like me, I invested in the advocacy. It paid off. I changed lives. It's the nature of people. And if we can do that with that, that's going to take care of two things. We got a rat crisis. Now we
Right.
have manpower to go in with the tools that we'll provide because we have them. We just don't have enough manpower. And, everybody's gotten lazy in their New York jobs. The next thing that we'll do is some of those folks who were released from the vaccines, they'll be able to come back to their job. I will give them back to their job retroactive, back on the job.
That's expensive.
Well, listen, if Bill de Blasio didn't steal $850 million, that wouldn't be a problem. You see, so listen, we're taking good money and throwing it into programs for migrants
Hmm.
who invest nothing here but created a problem. Stealing, killing, murdering. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
This has got to stop. But when you take the tax dollars of New Yorkers, you got to invest in New York City, not upstate, the five boroughs. And I'm determined to do what's needed for all New Yorkers. Now, it doesn't matter, and this is the biggest part of it. If you're a young Democrat, you're coming up, listen, old Democrats, old Republicans, you can't change them. You can't teach old dogs new tricks. But we can teach the young that, listen, everything you've heard about career politicians, that's not here. If you're a young Democrat like my young manager and you want to work in this administration, show me what you got. Because this is about fixing New York. It's not about fixing the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. New York is in crisis. Are you on the team or not? And I'm going to reach into the young folks to show them this is your city too. And it doesn't mean if you're Democrat or Republican. It goes with the red, white, and blue, not red or blue.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot in there, and I'm going to move on just because we have limited time, and
Okay.
the campaign's not going to be over when people see this. So we're gonna speak again because there
Okay.
is a little more about that I'd like to delve into. Good
Okay.
reason to come back again, but let me move from. So we've talking a little bit about violent crime, and that is one of the big issues,
Yes.
and violent crime is obviously a clear problem. Now, we have received decades of essentially empty promises, or we've been told the problem doesn't exist. As an example, Governor Hochul recently she activated 750 National Guard members to patrol the New York City subway system and told us that the subways are safe. Well, then why did we have the National Guard have to be activated if they're so safe? And even since that time, people have been shot or stabbed um, while they've been on the subway system. So that's been a problem. You're mentioning a little bit about violent crime in reference to illegal aliens. Well, actually, your programs in terms of nonviolent criminals, the
Right.
3060 program, fine.
Right.
But for those criminals who are violent, whether in gangs, legal, illegal, whomever they may be, how would you address that, especially considering there is the bail reform issue that is affecting New York State and New
Yeah,
York?
that's gonna go out the window. I'm gonna fight Kathy Hochul on that. She's not gonna like it because you commit a crime, you kill a New Yorker. I'm gonna be pushing it. If you're an illegal, I'm pushing for the death penalty for that. You kill somebody in New York City, you're an illegal, or you rape like Lakin Riley,
Hmm. Hmm.
you're dying. You're not gonna pay. We're not gonna make Americans pay to tab for you to spend life in jail. You killed a young, innocent girl who had a future. You took it away, so we take your future away, and that's it. I mean,
Well, let me. I have to immediately ask because it may be the phrasing or the emotion, and I understand both. When you say that, are you speaking about the legal system? Are you talking about vigilantism? I just want to be on the record
our
and clear.
legal system is failed because of corruption
Hmm.
and being weaponized for political ideologies.
Right.
People keep that's got to stop. We need law and order back. The
Right.
city has to function. I have to increase the size of NYPD, and I will. They're going to say, where are you going to get the money? Well, if all you city council members, when you took money to put Bloomberg in for a third term, well, we're going to use that money. You'll take a pay cut if that's what it takes. And let's see if you want to still be city council now. We're going to do whatever it takes to keep New Yorkers safe. And also, now, a lot of people love this when I said this last year. I will empower Second Amendment rights for all law abiding citizens who meet the criteria because, people lying and faking, they meet it. We got to protect business owners. Law abiding citizens have a right to protect their home. Didn't they have home invasions? My daughter up the street from her in Bayside. Nope. I'm going to Second Amendment empower New Yorkers to protect their family, their home, and their business. It's Constitution.
Okay.
It's not open to negotiation. And New York City has a very strong constitution if you've read it.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I want to make, because we didn't clarify that, I do want to make sure it's clear. You're speaking about using the legal system, not vigilantism, to punish criminals,
That's right.
murderers.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
I just
Our
want to make.
system to that like it was back in the day
Mhm.
when you committed a crime, and especially heinous crime, you were in jail. And there
Right.
was no, oh well, okay, no bail. Go ahead. Go murder somebody else. No, there'll be none of that.
Okay.
There'll be
I
none of
just
that.
I just want to make sure because I don't want someone to clip this and say, "Oh, I didn't ask the question" or something, or I let it go. I want to make sure we're all
We'll
clear.
always be here to clarify for everybody. If they want to ask it again or you need me to come back, I will come back. And even if I win, God willing, I will come on even as mayor. I'm here for the long haul to do a job and then leave. And that's it. After this job, I want it to be clear because there's something in my spirit that tells me I'm going to win this. That's it. I retire completely after this. I'll do
Okay.
my job. I'll fix our city. We'll all be happy, and then we'll pass it on to another young candidate to continue the efforts that we initiated.
Okay. So not only do you stand by the Second Amendment, you also stand by term limits, something a lot of people want to see
Absolutely.
as an amendment. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, and you are, and you're saying on the record that you would right now for those who are unaware, and
Right.
I've asked the Eric Adams administration already about this. I am aware, and it is a fact that there are many concealed carry holders who have followed through all of New York State's requirements, all of New York City's requirements, and their licenses are literally sitting at Police One Plaza right now and are not being printed because somehow New York State doesn't have the paper to print the licenses on, letting their time for their concealed carry to expire without them ever getting the opportunity to use it. And you have just said, and I want to be clear, if I'm wrong, correct me, but based on what you have said, you would expedite and make sure those individuals would receive their licenses as they clear the hurdles that have
That's
been
right.
put forward. Am I correct?
That's right. You are 100% correct.
Okay.
And those who apply, there's no Second Amendment was inscribed in stone. I don't care what president or what governor said it's not ironclad. Oh, yes, it is. Our Constitution is about we the people, and it's never about the elected. But as you're elected, I will make sure that I will empower to the full extent your Second Amendment, your First Amendment, no more. If any social media platform interferes in the New York City area, and they block you or censor you, they'll be up on charges. That's it. Violation, civil rights violation. You're going to have a mayor who fights for you because I'm just a New Yorker like you. I'm not blown up in my head that I'm a god. I'm a mayor, a public servant elected by the people to do the job that they need done. And I accept that responsibility with honor and integrity and character, and I'll prove it when I'm elected by doing the job that needs to be done.
Okay. Family first, every time,
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of running a little bit short in time, so I appreciate that you are giving us the time here. But
Absolutely.
you've answered a couple of questions that I wanted to ask anyway, and you've already volunteered the information, which is fantastic. But I did want to address something that's very serious
Go ahead.
because we've talked about it in a way, and most candidates do, and that is New York City, like New York State, is a financial failure. We are massively in debt. We are bleeding money, which is then affecting the infrastructure, and the cost of living has been increasing because of that. And many people are leaving, not just people, but businesses as
Affordable
well,
housing, of course.
flooding away from us
Right.
because you can't live here. It's unaffordable. It is too difficult.
The past three administrations destroyed New York because they were personally engaged in their futures and didn't give a damn about yours. That's a fact.
That's a fair assessment of the last three. You're correct. The last three. If not, we could make arguments for even going beyond that. But
Yeah.
how would you, walking in day one, if you win, you will walk into over $12 billion of debt. You will walk into a city
Caused by
with
the
a broken,
migrants, yes.
yeah, and you'll have a broken infrastructure. And you've already suggested a couple of changes. Now, I understand you're saying part of that will be money that was going to the illegal aliens, say in the hotels,
That's correct.
the
That
additional
funding
monies they were getting
stops.
will be reallocated. Fine.
Donald Trump will also give some help. We'll get some help from the Fed because I'll be a city that's cooperating with a attempt on a massive scale to clean our country up. And I'll be compliant to that, looking for the aid, and to do that portion. But once we clean up the city and help the small businesses and rejuvenate them, then we're going to be an attraction again. So that's going to generate revenue too. We got to make New York desirable again. We got to not only make it clean, make it safe, make it healthy, we got to make it desirable again for people to say, I love that city. So, and how do we do that? We got to revitalize our small businesses. Uh, Now, people, the other part of the police increasing for safety, I'm going to utilize the auxiliary police. I was an auxiliary police officer when I was 22 in Staten Island, and I have somebody targeted. I already have my commissioner. I have a lot of my cabinet members picked out already who are New Yorkers. And we're going to pick a half of young folks, and I'm going to give that opportunity in this campaign to come on with your ideas, solutions, to be part of a team effort. Remember, I'm the guy who's going to initiate some of the ideas I have. But any good candidate knows that this is not a one-man job. This is not a me job. This is a we job. And I have to have the people that go along with me to help me get it done. Because the damage is here. We're a cleanup crew. And we're a restoration crew that makes New York all these things again. So with the help from the federal government, and the resources that we do have and putting affordable housing in place, revitalizing old abandoned buildings. And I said this in 2016, okay, when I was asked at Columbia College that I would revitalize and take those buildings and revitalize them with some of the homeless folks to make them part of the, those with talents and skills. And
Mhm.
there are so many people out there that have, what do you call it? The cosmetic construction abilities, right? And we're going to utilize them. And we're going to refurbish, and we're going to put the 14,000 units that were supposed to be made back in Bloomberg a year, and they were never made. He did 6,000. So when you wonder why we're behind, there is a finger to point. They're thinking, see, other candidates who come in, they don't go, they don't go to where the problem began, to the root of it. They don't, because they get full of themselves. This is a real job, and it needs a serious candidate who's ready to take on this challenge. Other people are saying, why would you want to go back to New York? It's a ghetto. It's the place I grew up. It's the place that made me the guy that I am, the man that I am,
Yeah.
the patriot that I am. And
Okay.
that's why.
I have two questions.
Right.
And again, in the future, I will be happy to have you back on. We can elaborate more in
Pleasure.
2025 as the election moves forward.
Yes.
Um, I want to, I'm going to switch a little bit again. And obviously, we've seen Eric Adams has had a lot of problems. A lot of people have problems with the policies he has put forth. As he described himself on the day he won the mayoral race, he is a practical progressive. He said that on CNBC. That's how he described himself exactly. And obviously, people have seen what that practical progressive ideology has brought to New York. If you could pick one or two policies off the top of your head that you would either eliminate or somehow alter based on the policies that Eric Adams has enacted so far, what would the top one, two, the
Well,
first one or two
the
in your
first
mind?
thing that this sanctuary city, that's got to come off. That policy's got to go. That's got to go right in the garbage. And then we have to, we have to actually do, and I said this, once I see the books and all these orders and things that he's done, I'm going to reverse them because they didn't work. He did it under a Democratic plot to comply in an act because they were all fighting Donald Trump. All of them.
Mhm.
Okay? And that's why New York declined. So we have to revisit what he done, and I will undo because there's a lot of policies. His policing policies. You've got to take the handcuffs off the cops and give the cops their handcuffs back to put on the criminals. You know what I mean? So we have to increase, like I said, I'll utilize the auxiliary police. I didn't get to finish that remark, and the phone battery's dying. But we're going
Sorry.
to utilize that in a very positive way because I'm going to give them the extensive training. I'm going to put them in the classes because these are New Yorkers who volunteer to be a target on the street to keep their community safe. As the mayor, I'm going to appoint a civilian policing commissioner who watches them and works closely with another NYPD because they'll be like New York's National Guard for NYPD, but they'll be better respected because they weren't. Listen, I was part of the program. I know the deal. My brother's a cop. My two nephews are cops. My future son-in-law just got to get is a cop. They're going to
Congratulations
respect
to your
those.
daughter.
Huh? Thank you.
Congratulations to your
They're,
daughter.
thank you very much. They're going to respect those folks because they're the ones that pay them. They're out there on the street free. So I'm going to change that dynamic because we're all in, right? America together means we're all in together. So for New York, I want the five boroughs to be the paradise of America. People go going back to New York. We can do it. We have the ability. You ever see some of the beautiful structures of our city?
Oh
They're
yeah.
beautiful. But nobody wants to come here because they weren't paying attention. The elected folks weren't paying attention when the White House was saying, go ahead, take them. Here's 180,000 illegal migrants who weren't vetted. So,
Yeah. Big
don't worry
problem
if
there.
they kill
Betting.
somebody, just cover it up. They're lying about the crime. So we're going to have one thing that's really important. I want you to know. This is my promise. We have to get a grip on the corruption that's in there. So how am I
Mhm.
going to do that? Well, I'm going to use myself as an example and create a panel, not of Republican or Democrat, but independents, people who see things and see them for what they are. No party affiliation. That is a transparency panel of local government that watches my office and the city council. And I have to give transparency to them. Like, cops call them shoe flies. They'll be the shoe flies of the mayor's office and the city council and the police commissioner watching the main offices that govern New York. So that way, every quarter they have to file what's going on. I'm going to talk about budgeting. I'm going to do different things where you get to see me. Like I'll have a state of the borough every quarter and go to each borough. I'm going to work. I'm going to actually work. I'm not going to
Okay.
take money. I'm just going to take my paycheck. And the first year, when I get in, because I'm dedicated to this. If I get in on a special election, I'm going to take that paycheck because they'll pay me. I think they give you the whole year. I'm going to take that
I'm not sure.
paycheck and put it to my most sacred of my charity, homeless disabled veterans. I'm going to take that check and I'm going to say, here, I put my money where my mouth is. And that's going to go towards the program that I want to do for New York affordable housing, for free housing for our veterans, our older veterans and ones that
Mhm.
can't, not workable. They're going to get the care that they deserve. And I don't think there's a New Yorker or an American in the country that would argue with me on that. I
I
hope
won't.
not.
I
I
won't.
hope not.
I'm not going to argue that. Um,
So
Darren, for people, those who are watching, we were expecting to do roughly about half an hour. We've gone over that time, and I appreciate every moment. I know your phone is dying there.
It is.
But and there's a couple more things I wanted to ask, but we won't do it today. Like I said,
I'll
we'll
come back
come back in
anytime you want me.
2025. Yeah, but in the meantime,
Yes.
I your website is Aquino for mayor. Is that correct?
No, Aquino4NewYork.com.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at one screen and I'm talking to you about another. So, and I will have that in the description. I will have that on screen when I edit the video for volume. I'll make sure to put that in there for you.
Please, and anybody that wants to volunteer and join the fight to make New York safe again, you're welcome. Don't worry if you're Democrat. Now, people are saying, why are you saying it? Because it's a city of people, not a city of parties. It's a city of people who all feel the burn of New York. So I want you young Democrats to know, you young Republicans to know, listen, this is an opportunity to help me build a future for you, because I'm going to need your young ideas with some of my old ones. And I think if we put those together, we'll have a success story. That's what I think.
Well, I think everyone's young and old. I think New Yorkers will find this to be a very interesting interview. I think people across the nation will find it to be an interesting introduction to you and to your efforts in this election. And of course, we'll have you back in 2025 to talk a little bit more. But now people have something to, while they're digesting their food in between the football games, they can watch this wonderful interview. I thank you, Darren, for giving us the time today. I thank your family for giving us the time today during the holiday season. Is there any final thought that you have before I let you go?
I just want people to come together. We got to unite our city. We've allowed aggressors in political parties to dictate the fate of New York. New York belongs to New Yorkers. It's up to us to make the change. I'll rely on you. If you rely on me and we work together, I'll trust you, you trust me, and I promise you, together we'll fix our city bigger and better than any politician has ever promised, because we have the power and the tenacity to do it, because it's our city. Remember that. It doesn't belong to the elected. It belongs to us.
All right. And with that, folks, I'm going to end it on that high note, that strong point. And I hope you'll come back and keep watching the show. Remember to like, share, and subscribe because we get suppressed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
No Soundbites Allowed is a podcast hosted by Michael Vass. The podcast focuses on providing in-depth discussions on various political and social issues. As the title suggests, the aim is to go beyond quick sound bites and explore topics in greater detail. Michael Vass, the host, engages with guests to analyze and discuss current events, policies, and political ideologies. The live stream and videos cover a wide range of subjects, including politics, economics, social issues, and more. By delving into longer, more comprehensive conversations, No Soundbites Allowed aims to provide listeners with a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding contemporary issues. AI is listening. Shouldn't you know what AI knows? Aren't you tired of being treated like a child by major media parrots and want to be respected as an adult? There is nothing to lose and a lot to potentially gain, so check out No Soundbites Allowed on all major social media platforms.